Boim Nafshi Mikrovli Kive Rabim Hayumi Modi Podove Shalom Nafshi Mikravli Kiverabim Ayuimodi Podove Shalom Nafshi Mikravli Kiverabim Ayuimodi Ay 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 Yay Shem Kenem Ya da 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 ay 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 Eliato ve'oidekom Eloi hai Adroi memeko Ay Eliato ve'oidekom Eloi hai Aroi memeko Oye liato ve'oideko Eloi hai Aroi memeko Oye liato ve'oideko Elohai aroi memeko. Thou art my God, and I praise thee. My God, I exalt thee. Thou art my God, and I praise thee. My God, I exalt thee. Oye liato ve'oideko Eloi hai Aroi memeko, thou art my God, and I praise thee. My God, I exalt thee. Hello, welcome, welcome. So I want to take a few minutes to give covered tonight being Yud Shvat. Hello, hi. Which happens to be my birthday. So the Yortzeit of Koblentzer Rebbe, the Rebbe, and also the Yortzeit of the Rashash. Tzaddikim, we commemorate saints that we venerate on this day, lighting candles and making pilgrimages and learning Torahs and singing and so forth, and eating and drinking in honor of these saints. So tonight being the Yortzeit of the Rebbe from Koblentzer Rebbe, I wanted to say a few words. Some things that came up today at work when the subject came up. So the Maisa with the Rebbe is a story with Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, the sixth Lubavitcher Rebbe, that he was quite defiant against the communists in Russia, and they arrested him, they tried to kill him, and one point, one of the communists put a gun to the Rebbe's head. The Rebbe told him, "This little toy, that only scares people with many gods in one world, but I have one God in many worlds." So, interestingly, the Satmar Rav's Chassid Galeno very rarely, especially in America, almost never went to a levaya, almost never went to a funeral. But one of the few funerals that he attended was of the Rebbe Rayat's Koblentzer Rebbe. And the
Stop it! It's your father's birthday.
big inyanim that I wanted to discuss, one idea in particular, someone when was at work earlier, someone brought up that it's Yud Shvat, and I work in prison ministry. So there are two fellows. One for sure is not Jewish. The other one might be Jewish. I don't ask too many questions. Doesn't seem like he's Jewish. Excuse me. But he identifies as such, and the other one doesn't. The one who he doesn't identify as Jewish, we had a Jewish calendar from the Aleph Institute. I'm not sure if they're so happy to tell those calendars to everybody, but Miman of Shach, I can't discriminate, and I don't want to. He's a tired nefesh, and a very special person, someone I have a lot of respect for, and he's going home soon, leaving our prison tomorrow, Mirz Hashem. And he said, it's a very special day. It's Yud Shvat. And I said, all right, the calendars from Lubavitch, they make a big deal about their things, but I'm not denying it's not a big day. I went once, Yud Shvat, to the oil. Actually went with the Biala Rebbe from Bnei Brak. We went. Actually, he told me that when we go to the Rayats from the Zulgain with the Payas Kraseldik, I remember, so we can go like this too. So the one thing that I brought up when we were discussing was that the Rebbe Rayatz, when he came to America, was in 1940. So it's before America entered the war. The war had already started in Europe. And very famously, the Rebbe Rayatz, he said, America is not anders. America is not different. So what's heist? What does he mean here? So basically what he was, arguing against the whole idea that America, you couldn't be a pious Jew because it's a different type of place. And we were discussing this, and I was contrasting this with later on, after the war, when Rabbeinu Kodesh, when the Satmar Rav Chassid Galeno came to America. And then later on, during his years in America, it was kind of a different view. You should understand, the Satmar Rav really didn't want to come to America. We were learning with some of the Chabura that we learned on Zoom. Yesterday we were learning the halachas of Tanis Cholam. And I mentioned that the Rebbe's Chassid Galeno, Satmar Rav's Chassid Galeno, once fasted. It was Shabbos and Shmini Atzeres, I believe. And he fasted a Tanis Cholam, a dream fast on account of a bad dream. What was the dream? The dream was, and he was living still in Hungary, the dream was that he was going to move to America. He was going to settle here in America. And it was such a horrific prospect for him at the time, before the war, that he felt it was worthy to fast on, it was during the war, I think it was before things really got bad in Hungary, whatever it was. He felt it was worthwhile to fast on Shabbos and Yom Tov because of this dream, because of such a dream. But yet, Satmarov, he understood things in a very strong way, and he understood psychology without studying psychology. He understood all kinds of things. And the Rebbe, he said that here in America, it is different. As opposed to the Lubavitch Rebbe said America is not different. Satmarov, he said in America, we can be more religious. In Europe, many people, Balabatisha people, they didn't have a beard. Like, recently I went to see, a friend of mine told me that Rav Moshe Frisch was in America, not too far from where I was staying for Shabbos, 20 minutes away. So, all right, I'll go see Rav Moshe. I didn't know Rav Moshe Frisch, but I remember his father, Rav Daniel, who I had a big shaykhis to. In fact, I was just singing now Keliota from Balatanya. I was thinking about the zechronis I had, the memories I had by the Mosik Midvash, by Rav Daniel Frisch, by his Shabbos Suda, and he would often sing that nigun. So, and Rabbi Daniel, Yerushalayim or Yid, right? I saw, after he was nifter, they did in the magazines. They had all kinds of articles about Rabbi Daniel, and we gesehen Zantate. It was Balabata Shayid with a mustache, no beard. Balabatisha English Shayid. That was Reb Daniel's parents, and when he came to Yerushalayim, and then they saw Reb Arla, and it was already after Reb Arla was nifter as he came, so he was by the Tolsaran, by Reb Avram Yitzchak Khan, and then and he specifically said that he came to Daven Marv there in Tolsaran Yitzchak, in Tolsaran. And he saw Rav Meir Brandsdorfer, Zichron Livracha, davening with a bren, a marv in the mitten of Vach, Kiheim Chayenu Varchimenu, with such a bren. These are the life and length of our years, with such a fire, with such enthusiasm. He said, Payeshev Kiviyasiya, this is where I'm going to stay. This is where I desire to be. But Ofgevakst, he didn't grow up like that. And the idea, what we're bringing out here, is that in the Alter Haim, it wasn't like we think. Sure, Rabbonim, Tzadikim, they went with the whole Levush, but the regular Balabatim, by and large, it wasn't Ruba Kakula, it went with Stramlach, almost for sure not. And by that time and so forth, even in Hungary and in Poland and other places, a lot of Eden, they didn't go with the beard and payas. Yeah, it was the world. So for the Lubavitcher Rebbe to say America's nita anders, America is not different. Satmarov said, no, it is different, because the level of religious freedom that we have here in America is so radical. And then particularly later in the 60s and 70s, when there came the hippie movement, and people would have beards and long hair, so the Rebbe said, Satmarov said, we could also have our beards. We don't medafne shaman. Same thing, live in Queens, and you see the Sikhs with the beards and turbans. We don't have to be ashamed of who we are. We can go with, with the whole Shmona Begodim and everything. Incidentally, it was, today, we'll go over a little bit what we discussed. So today was the yard site, Tesh Shvat. It was the yard site of Rav Lazer Silber. And he was Rav in different places. You can see on my channel once when I was, why am I so tired today? Well, thank you for the gift. I performed a funeral today, and I've been tired, a little behind, but I thank you for the gift. Appreciate. So Laser Silver, he he was Rav in Harrisburg, and his son was Malamokim there in Harrisburg. When I was in Harrisburg once, the Rav there, who's now Rav in Queens, Rabbi Friedman, he showed me um, the a how do I do that? If I press this, oh, there we go. He showed me relics back from Laser Silver, Mishnayos. It was like the Hever Mishnayos, a board, and it was interesting. He pointed out that there were men and women who signed up to learn Mishnayos with the Hever Mishnayos, and today, the Levaya that we made today was for a entire Yiddish Mama, Malka Schwartz, Allah Shalom. And I remember Michelle Malka, she would come to shul and she would have with her art school Gemara. She would learn Daf Yomi. This woman who we lost, we who came to Kvuras Yisrael today. So a lot of things, a lot of interesting ideas. So anyway, so with Laser Silver, I've told this story before. I made videos. I made an AI video recently, Parshas Balak probably, that after he was in Harrisburg, he was in Cincinnati. Then, like I said, his son Reb David was in Malamokim in Harrisburg, but when Reb Laser Silver was Cincinnati Rav, so Cincinnati is where Hebrew Union College is, and there was much more at that time, whatever it was, the 20s, the 30s, much bigger period between the period Levavus, between the Reform and between the Shomer Torah mitzvahs, and particularly, and not only that, but in general, the ideas of the world at that time were much different. The progressivism kind of wiped out the type of radical religious freedom that was earlier in America during the burnt over zone times and so forth. So it was kind of like pulled back from those times. I was mentioning actually when we were sitting and learning, and we davened Marv and so forth. So we were in one room, and the next room were the Jehovah's Witnesses. And in those days, I think it was a little later, 30s, 40s, there was tremendous redifus against, tremendous persecution against Jehovah's Witnesses in America, particularly after a particular Supreme Court ruling that was later overturned that said that there was no right to claim religious freedom for Jehovah's Witnesses to not recite the Pledge of Allegiance. So, and there were horrific persecutions that happened against the Jehovah's Witnesses at that time. People were tarred and feathered. I only found out about this when we went out west. And you can see on the channel some of our trip. And we were in one town, I think in Wyoming or somewhere, where because of the Supreme Court ruling, there was a lot of, like I said, they tarred and feathered the Jehovah's Witnesses, and I think some people got killed. It was a horrific time. Similarly, by Eden, by us, by Jewish people, also similar type of redifus, that there wasn't full recognition of religious liberty. And particularly often it was the Jewish people who were making problems for other Jewish people. So Darton and Cincinnati, what happened was there was an almana, there was a widow who had bequeathed in her will her house to be a mikveh, to be a ritual aliyim, a ritual bath, if she after her patira. And So this was in Cincinnati. So Rabbi Silver was going to build a mikveh there, and there was a big pushback from the reformers and from Hebrew Union College and so forth. So I don't remember. If you see my other video, I talk about what more of the details of what happened. But I know that the lawyer who defended Rabbi Silver, I'm also a rabbi in a shul too, but the lawyer who defended Rabbi Silver was later he was a senator, and he was the son of President Taft. So, who was also in the Supreme Court after his presidency, President Taft. He wasn't only known for getting stuck in the bathtub. So, the reform side, who was against building the mikveh, they said that the story was with the judge happened to be African American and he was blind. So you can picture the scene, and the reform lawyer, he was presenting the case, and he said, Your Honor, because of your disability, your handicap, you're unable to see, just like what a caveman this Rabbi Silver is, with his long beard and his long black coat and the yarmulke. So I'm going to cross-examine him to demonstrate just how backwards he is. So he said, Rabbi, do you believe that every word in the Hebrew Bible, Christians call the Old Testament, Protestants call the Old Testament, every word is true? He said, yes, of course. So he said, you mean to tell me, like in Parshas Balak, in the Book of Numbers, you believe that a donkey could talk? So then he said, I wasn't sure until I met you. The point is that it's at that time in America, it was an uphill battle. As we mentioned that the Rebbe in communist Russia was more than an uphill battle. It was his life was in danger, and so any other Yid, other tzaddikim, like the Koblentzer Rebbe, the Hasidic Rabbi, other tzaddikim, they they were so far. It was so difficult in Russia to. Hi, Rabbi Manning. Welcome. It was so hard to halzich Yiddish. In America, you could. It was still redifus, but wasn't anything like in the old country. So when for the Lubavitch Rebbe to come to America and to say America is nicht anders, to say that America is not different. So there's a radical statement that you could be frum. You could be religious in America. And that was something very radical at that time. So, and yet, as we said, probably by the Satmarov, it was a little different. Is that no, America is different, that you could be more frum in America than you could be in Europe. So, I believe this has roots in the very famous earlier machlokas, that the Balatanya with, I believe, with Reb Mendel Rimanover, who we had a big veneration for today, of Tuesday in Parshas B'Shalach, that Reb Mendel Rimanover, he was dedicated his whole life to bringing down the chef of Parnassa, particularly through giving drushes on the inyan of the man. So he brought tremendous prosperity into the world through his preaching. So, in any event, it's late and I have to finish. I have still a black Gemara to go through. So, the machlokes between the Rebbe and Reb Mendel Rimanover. How do we approach the difference between Napoleon and the Tsar? So even though the Balatanya was accused of spying against the Tsar. Nonetheless, he supported the Tsar, and um, I'm a little bit. So the Balatanya was supporting the Tsar in his prayers, and the Rebbe Rimanover was supporting Napoleon. And the question was, which is better for the Jews? Is it better to be persecuted under the Tsar but to stay religious, or to take the chance of the liberty that would be afforded by Napoleon, but would that mean they're not going to stay from? So I made Zustellung to Iran. I ran, he ran, she ran, they ran. So in Iran, when there was the Shah, sure, there were religious Jews in Iran, but now, even though the Jewish community, of course, has shrunk tremendously in Iran, now, I'm not saying right now with everything in shambles as is, but since the revolution, the Jewish community in Iran got much more religious. And so the persecution is lavdavka. It's not so much as persecution of the Jews as much as it's just in general a lousy place. Not that it was a beautiful place, but it's very poorly managed because of the way they manage things there. So, but the point is it would seem that the ideology of the Balatanya is that the persecution keeps the Jews Jewish, keeps the Jews from, and that the specter of liberty could be very dangerous. Whereas I remember women over thought we should support Napoleon and have the liberty that's promised to us from
we
to.
got very anti-Semitic quotes from Napoleon where he was like, "Where there's Jews, there are money."
So similarly, we could say perhaps when the Rebbe Rayatz came to America, he said America's nicht anders. His point was that it's not different in the sense that you could still be a Shomer Torah mitzvahs in America, whereas you can't be a Shomer Torah mitzvahs. I'm sorry. Oh. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little tired. So, but my Lefuke, in opposition to this, I was pointing out that by Satmarav's Chassid Mileno, that the whole idea was that no, the liberty that we have here, we're going to be more from because of the liberty that we have in America. And not only that, but in a certain sense, we're afforded more liberty in order to use it in the right way. Perhaps maybe in the old days we weren't ready, but now we're ready and now we're able to take hold of the liberties that we have here in America, to dedicate them to the service of God, to devotion and worship. So that's the idea of between America's nicht anders, America's ja anders. That America we can. It's not just that like the low expectations of the Rebbe Rayatz of America's nicht anders that all right you could still be from, but the Satmarov's Weiterblick, not Chas v'Sholom to take anything away from the Rebbe Rayatz, but the Satmarov looked at it as this is just the beginning. It's become aufwachsen and so forth. That and I often compare it to, in general, what we have in America, the free market system that we have affords tremendous opportunities for growth and success as opposed to socialized anything, including socialized religion like they have in Israel and Europe and so forth, breeds just corruption and mediocrity. So the liberty that we have here in America, we have to use it to the best of our abilities in the service of the Almighty, or else we risk losing it. So that's why we have to be more ehrliche way. So, Tata, what the? So that's a Maisa. So we shall be zeiche to the tremendous lichtige. All right, I'm sorry. To me, the idea that Hashem would keep Jews oppressed to be more from seems antithetical, but then again, I'm not Jewish. So I think there's a time and a place for everything. There's certainly in some places and sometimes, but hopefully, if we can overcome, both sides are in a soyin, both sides are a test, and the question is which side. So, it seems, even though, however, that the Koblentzer Rebbe was essentially saying that the avoda is by us, but you can make all kind of sims. All right, so I'm very sorry. Slum zingen noch as an earl. Mich tam le David Shomania Ki chosi sivach Amart la Adonai Adonai Ata Bata sivach Minecha Diri Chochese You'll have to excuse me. Shavisi Arina Highlanagdi Samid Ki Mini Balemite Luchain Smachli Viviagel Quidi Apsuri Yishkoin Leveta Vendiska. Right, so Alright, I apologize. Shvisi Arina Highlanagdi Samid Ki Mimini Balemite Luchain Smachli Viav Sish Koin Leveta Chizli Loisazoiv Nafshi Lashaloich and Chesed Chaleroy Shachas Tajinir. So, right. So, Yainer Chem Svochus Moch Ka b'shoifa godol l'chayri sayni v'sagei b'tzika b'savach. All right. Baruch Hashem. Oy, 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 da 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 da, ay da da da, ay da da da. All right. All right. All right. No, I haven't had anything to drink. I'm just very tired. I should have l'chaim, but I'm probably too tired. All right. All right. I better finish this up. All right. Thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment. Any other questions or anything else before we conclude? Give it 20 seconds, and then we'll shut down the live stream. So it's after 7:38. That's when I'm sorry, not 7:30. After 10. Oh, it's almost 11 o'clock. I got to bench and finish learning. All right. Well, God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment. And the schus of the tzaddikim, we shall all see tremendous good things in the world. God bless. We love you. Talk to you later. All right. How do I turn this thing off?